Welcome back to the arcade. Yes, here we are again. I still have the Gorf test board set up, and I figured we had one more board that was bad in the 3 board sets that I have. So I figured, what the heck, we might as well go ahead and do that, and that way we'll have all the boards out of the way. Now this board that's bad, the last one, happens to be a CPU board. And this is the board right here. Now, I've already tested it and I know it was bad. And I'm pretty sure that I'd already tested the chips, the removable chips. We got 2 custom chips here. We got the custom address chip right here at U3, I believe it is. Yes, U3. And the custom data chip at U15. This is the one with the heatsink, and here it is right here. And what I did, I pulled them off of the bad board, and I put all the socketed chips from the bad board onto my good board. That way, one more time, I'm going to go ahead and test to make sure that the socketed chips are good. I'm pretty sure I'd already tested this back in August of 2021, last year, and it was bad. This is the custom address chip at U3. So I'm pretty sure this chip is bad, but we're going to test it one more time just to make sure. So I have it all ready to go, so let me power it up. And there you go. That's what it looks like when you have a bad custom chip at U3. Now, if you have a bad chip, it's not necessarily going to look the same. It depends on the failure in the chip. Because, you know, it depends on what address pins might be bad or whatever. So, you know, it'll be something similar, but it could be entirely different. But I know this is a good board because it works perfectly with the chips that came on the board. But what I need to do is I need to make sure that I start off with all the good chips on the bad board so I can find out what else is bad on the board, because there is another problem on this board besides the custom chip. And I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to go ahead and pull this bad custom chip out and put a good one in, and that will prove that this is the only socketed chip in the bad board that was bad. So let me go ahead and switch that out, and we'll be right back. Okay, now I've replaced the custom chip here. So this is a good chip, and all these other chips are out of the bad board, but this is my good board. Okay, I just want to prove that all the other chips that were in the bad board are good. That was the only bad chip. So let's turn it on, and hopefully, yes, we'll get a working game here. So all that proves is that this custom chip right here, the address chip, was bad on the bad board. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put all these other chips back on the bad board, but I'm going to put my good custom chip on the bad board. Once I do that, we'll fire it up and see what happens. Okay, well, I got the bad board back in the cage, and I got all good chips on it now. All the socketed chips are good. Both customs are good. The Z80 is good. This chip right here, which is a 245. It just says a N8T 245, but I think it's the same as a 74 LS 245. So that's good. So let's go ahead and fire it up and see what we get. I got the sound turned all the way up so we can hear if like the other boards were doing with the reset, you could hear it resetting in the speaker. So I got it turned up so we can hear what it's going to do. Okay. And you can hear it. Sounds like digital interference. But it's not resetting. But we got a blank screen. Okay. So, what we have to do now is, I'm going to take my logic probe, and I've already, with the good board, took the logic probe readings. I again printed out my sheets like I normally do, and I've already taken the readings on the good board. So now I'm going to have to take the readings on the bad board so I can compare them. I've already made up my schematic here, so once I get the data, now it's started resetting. It put something up on the monitor there, a pattern. I probably caught it in the other camera. I didn't catch it in the handheld camera here. So, So that means the program was running up to a certain point and now it's started resetting. Let me cut it off. Turn it back on. And let's see if we can get it to do that again before it goes into reset. Nope, just goes into reset. Let me cut it off. Well, that's bad because if it goes into reset, that makes it a little harder to get logic probe data, but I think I'll manage. If nothing else, I'll have to turn it on and get the reading when it first turn it on before it starts resetting. Okay, well, alrighty, well, the process begins. So I'm going to go ahead and make my readings, and once I look over the situation, I'll be back. Okay, well, I'll let it run for a few more minutes, just resetting, and this is what it's doing now. So it's pretty much resetting and stuck in a loop, it looks like. So I'm going to take a few readings with the logic probe, and I may be able to do it like it's doing right now. If not, I'll have to cut it off and, you know, see which way would be the best to get the readings. But one way or the other, I'm going to do it. So, but I just thought it was interesting that it started displaying something on the screen there, so I thought I'd share that. So anyway, let me get busy and I'll be back. All right, well, I've finished taking my logic probe readings, and I've transferred all the readings onto the schematic, and pretty much everything looks pretty good. Everything on the Z80 is perfect. These three chips right here, all the readings are perfect on there. It's little oddities, like right here, we've got a little bit of yellow between these two, but that I don't think is a problem. The only places that I think is a problem, well, this is another little section that's yellow, but I don't really think that's a problem. But the main problem is where you see the red right here. And I've narrowed it down to this chip right here. Both of these are or U10. So it's one chip, but it's just drawn on a schematic as two chips. Pin 2 is an input, and that is giving me a low on the logic probe, and it's supposed to be a high-low pulse. Okay. Pin 8 and 9 are outputs of U10, and both of those supposed to also be a high-low pulse, and I'm getting a low on both of them. So I'm getting a low on the outputs and one of the inputs, and the output goes to U7 here, pin 1, but the rest of the chip is okay. And I've looked up this chip here, and this appears to be working okay. It's just that it's getting a bad signal to pin 1. Also, U11 up here, the bad signal coming from U10 goes up to U11 to pin 6, and that's an input. So it's getting a bad input from the output of U10. And of course, pin 2 and pin 9 are tied together. I don't know why an input and an output on the same chip would be tied together. That's strange. But it also goes up to U8 right here, pin 9, which is the clock. And that's low because it's tied into these chips right here. So I'm thinking that U10 right here is a problem. And U10 is a 74 LS74. So I'm going to go ahead and pull U10 and check it in my IC tester and find out if it's bad or not. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, well, I did replace U10, put a socket in and put a new chip in. The old chip tested good, but after I put the new chip in, a couple of the pins that I was getting the low signal on, suddenly I started getting a high-low pulse, which is what it's supposed to be. But then there's a couple more pins that were getting a low pulse, a low, but they're now getting a low pulse. So it did change something, but I'm not sure that is what really changed. So I decided to pull the custom chips out and check my work with putting sockets in, because I had replaced these sockets earlier. And if you remember on my last board, I had problems with shorts in between the socket pins. And sure enough, I got checking, and I had a short between pin 8 and pin 32. So I removed the socket, and I'm not going to put my macro lens on here, but rest assured, I looked at it with my magnifying glass, and there is a little solder bridge across pin 8 to the trace that goes over to pin 32. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that back up and put another socket on it, check it again, and while I'm at it, the one for the other custom, I'm going to go ahead and check that. And I did change the Z80 socket too, but I'm getting all good readings on the Z80, so I don't think it's a problem with that one. But I'm going to go ahead and check this one just to be sure. So let me go ahead and straighten this short up. That could be a whole problem. I don't know, but we shall see. Okay, well, I went ahead and put the new socket in for the custom chip U3, and I checked it with my continuity checker, and now I make sure I don't have any shorts in the socket, so I'm good there. I didn't have any shorts in the custom socket for the U15 here, so I'm good there. So I put the board back in and I tried it, and I was still getting problems, but things had changed a little bit, but they were still messed up. But some of the signals that were bad, like the one coming off of pin 9 for U8, was better. It still was a little bit off, but it also connected down here to U10, and they were still pretty bad, even though they're connected. And I couldn't figure out, well, why would the signals be that different? Because they're all connected, so they should be reading the same, you would think. But anyway, I had replaced U10 without a whole lot of difference. But there was still something here that was bugging me that didn't seem quite right. So I got to looking, and even though after replacing U10, pin 1 on U7 right here straightened up and was okay. It seemed like it was okay, but I was still getting the reset. But I also looked over here on U7, and I had this yellow over here on U7 right here. And so I said, well, let me go ahead and pull U7 and check it. So I did. I pulled U7 out, and here it is right here. And I checked it, and it says it's good. It's a 74 LS10. So I went ahead and put a socket in and replaced it anyway. And went ahead and turned it back on to do some more checks. And when I turned it on, this is what happened. Bam. We now have a working game. Now that's weird, because I know this is just a cheap Chinese IC tester, but it's been doing me pretty good. But it says this chip is bad, but yet I replaced the chip with another 74 LS10, which I also checked in the checker before I put it in, and it said it was good. And the board is working. So that just goes to show you, you can't trust one of these 100%. And I still think that my kind of unorthodox way of finding a problem, sometimes I guess it'll send you down a rabbit hole or whatever, but it seems to work this time, because it did clue me in that there was a problem in this area, and U7 was the problem. And of course, over here too, had the little the yellow, which the signal wasn't correct, but it was kind of halfway correct. So if that makes sense. So anyway, there we go. And of course, I circled it because this is one chip, U7, and it's also U7 over here. So we wound up, even though it looks like I replaced 5 chips, actually this is one chip, U10, that's U7, and these are U7. So I only replaced 2 chips on this board, and we fixed it. So I guess you could say that's a win, and I guess I'm getting a little better. At least I didn't replace half the chips on the board this time. So, okay, well, there you have it. That finishes the all the boards for my 3 board sets for Gorf. All the boards are now working. Now, I still am 1 custom chip short. And I have noticed while checking this, this custom chip also gets kind of warm. Not real bad, but it gets warm. This one here has, I got this out of the Astrocade, and this one has that aluminum heatsink on it. And it feels warm, but that aluminum heatsink seems to be doing the job. But it's kind of thicker than the original, so I think what I might do next is, I got a bag of original looking heat sinks off of eBay. I have to make a couple little modifications to it to make it flat, because the fins sort of set up on it. They go down and up. So I'm going to have to modify them. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt, and I hate to do it, but because this is a working chip, I'm going to see if I can't figure out a way of getting that unglued off the chip and gluing an original type heatsink on it. And I may go ahead, let me know in the comments if you think I would benefit if I put a heatsink on this other custom chip too. Do you think that if I put a heatsink on this, that this custom chip would last longer? I have, you know, out of my board sets, I had, actually all three of them were bad now, because I got two of these out of the Astrocade, so I got two, and I'm still short one because my original board set had one of these go bad. So that's why I'm one short. If my original board in my game hadn't have went bad, then I would have been caught up. But it seems like every time I get caught up, I always get sent back one. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for this one. I'm going to wrap it up. Maybe this video will be a little shorter than the rest of them. Also, I'd like to thank all my subscribers. I hit 1,000 subscribers. Actually, I think I'm at 1,002 or maybe 1,003. So I'd like to thank everybody that subscribed to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And be sure to like and leave a comment. And let me know how you like the channel. And is there anything you'd like me to change, do a little different? I'm open to suggestions. So anyway, hopefully I'm going to have a lot more things to come in the future. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss when I upload the next video. So in the meantime, this has just been another Arcade Fix. Have you had your Arcade Fix today?